Namasadase, Namasadasaspatie. It's firstly my deep sense of gratitude to Young Thinkers Forum. This is an organization I've been able to only hear about for so many years now. और आज मेरे भाग्य निकले हैं कि मैं यहाँ पर उपस्थित हो सका हूँ. तो मेरे अहोभाग्य है कि मैं आज यहाँ पर यंग थिंकर्स कॉन्क्लेव की ये सत्र पर आकर मेरा कुछ थोड़ा बहुत योगदान देने के लिए मेरा एक अवसर मिला है. It's really an honor to be here, and I'm going to be broadly talking about some topics that are in continuation of the ones that we have heard before. Very specifically in continuation of what we heard from Amiji just some time back. It's very closely related to that, but it's coming at the same from a completely different angle and from a completely different kind of a place. Right? So, if we slides. So, we will start with this topic of Indian knowledge systems. खासकर ये भारतीय ज्ञान परंपरा ऐसे कहलाता है, और nowadays it's become kind of a buzzword in academia and even otherwise outside of that, largely because it's become part of policy. It is a part of the policy, it's become part of government policy, educational policies, and all of that. And that is why it is a very, very important subject that all of us look at it. But then, while this is a topic that is a very technical topic used in the academia, etc., I would like to take a slightly different take on this particular subject. Especially given the audience that we have here today, young dynamic audience who are all ready to take up larger roles, larger responsibilities, and raring to go, right? So, and that is why for this audience, I would like to say the topic Indian knowledge systems is a very boring one. The real topic is the battle for hearts and minds of young India, right? And this is the real topic that Indian knowledge systems actually is. Indian knowledge systems is a very sophisticated name to hide the intensity and the raw appeal of what this battle is all about. And this battle is not something new to us. We've heard in the morning also, Srivastavji talked about it, how education is actually a battle and what kinds of battle strategies are employed in this particular game. And it is in a way, and there's no doubt about the fact that it is a battle, but it's a nice battle for the hearts and minds of people. And in today's age, where narrative, knowledge, information, everything is the key, the battle for hearts and minds can never be more important than it is today. Right? So let's start right into this and start looking at what this is, right? So the first question is, what is IKS, right? This is a topic, I mean, we have heard of this very often. Anybody wants to have a take on what is IKS? Indian knowledge systems, okay, but what is that? Is it a name of a person, name, place, animal, thing? Indian way to attain knowledge, yes, okay. Anything else? Collection of knowledge from Indian books, absolutely, okay. Absolutely, absolutely, right. It is all of this, and in today's context, in most educational institutes, if you walk in, if you ask the question, what is IKS? The first thing that they know is, this is this new subject that has been introduced, and which we have been forced to teach, of which we know nothing about, but we definitely have to do something about, right? So this is how IKS is thought of. And very honestly, even well-intentioned people look at IKS and say, अरे यार, पता नहीं इसको कैसे करूं? ये इसका जिम्मा मुझे पकड़ा दिया यार, जैसे कि एक punishment posting है. right? So this is kind of how things have been, and it is also not surprising because it's the first time that we are looking at, right? So, but I will now start directly with what IKS is possibly not about, right? It's not a subject. It is not a particular discipline, right? But it is a full education system in itself, right? It's a full education system in itself. We today know that we are all products of an education system. We may study from different colleges, different cities, even different countries. But what we study is pretty much kind of uniform. We exactly know if this is the degree that you have done in the first year of your degree, this is what approximately you would have studied, give or take a little bit, right? So we are all product of one particular education system, but this IKS is also an education system by itself, but this was the education system that was here in this country long before the current education system took root and came in, okay? But necessarily by saying that, I don't mean to say, very rhetorically that this is the real education system, aaj jo kuch hum kar rahe hain, ye sab kharab hai. Not so much in that sense, right? But more about an inquisitive take on it to say, well, if this was the education system, तो अचानक पूरे तरीके से how did the new system come in, right? And that answer to that we all know. But the most important question we are all interested in is, what is different about this education system? Education system तो ऐसे ही होगा ना कि बच्चों के लिए कुछ ना कुछ, you may call it first standard या something else, but ऐसे ही होता होगा बच्चों के लिए कुछ, middle school के लिए कुछ और थोड़े प्रौढ़ अवस्था में उनके लिए और कुछ तो होता होगा. Right? But what is special about this knowledge system or the Indian system of education? And this is what we would like to understand. Right? But before we go into this, I'd just like to make a quick poll, okay, on what is the primary background of this audience here. How many of you are engineers of any kind? Right? So you all have some degree that reads BE, BTech, etc. How many of you are from a science background or BSc? Right, okay, quite a lot. I think 50% of the audience is covered. How many of you have a BA or MA degree? Arts, right, oh, okay, this is 50%. So the other one was 40%, right? So now we have to find out what is the remaining 10%. अच्छा, तो बता दीजिए आप ही बाकी के 10% कौन सा है? Law, right, okay, how many law? Okay, 7%. तो बाकी का 3% अभी उसका हिसाब होना है अभी. So what is remaining? Medicine, okay, medicine, anything related to medicine, physiotherapy, dentistry, MBBS, etc. Okay, so very nice. How many of you here are from Sanskrit background? Okay, right, 1%, 1.5%, okay. How many of you are actually from a Gurukul? Any of the Gurukuls? 0.000001. Okay, chalo. I was worried that it will become 0000 forever, but no, it is 0. At least I can put one number somewhere, okay? So you are seeing why we need to understand this, right? This poll is the answer to why we are trying to understand this. Now the question is, why is it that now I'm pretty sure everyone here is completely committed to this, right? And that is why you're all here. You're all delegates here. But in spite of that, why is it that none of us, including me, okay? I also come under the category of engineers, sometimes science, etc. Definitely not law, right? But every one of us here belongs to one of these, and none of us came from a Gurukul. Why is that so? Sorry? Impact of globalization. So why is that? And what is the impact of global? किसी ने बता दिया कि आज globalization का ज़माना है तो आपको ये करना है. Is it how it is? It was not abolished. It did exist. It still exists today. Gurukuls have not gone away. They are still there. Demand and value, right? तो हम मानते हैं कि इसमें value नहीं है. Indian knowledge system में value नहीं है. Right? But in spite of that, we have come here today to listen to this, okay? That means we do see some value in it, but we will possibly not dare to take it up as our profession or career, right? Career or profession के लिए और कुछ तो चाहिए, एक safety net चाहिए. If that is taken care of, पेट पूजा is taken care of, रोटी कपड़ा मकान सब कुछ देख लिया जाए, तो उसके बाद में चलो अब तो कुछ तो करना है, और करना है तो IKS में करना है या इस एरिया में करना है, right? So this is the exact dilemma, this is the exact conundrum that we have faced today. As Pankaj and Raghav very nicely put sometimes, the tragedy of our times today is that we have a choice between Dharma and IKS and leading a decent life, right? This is the conundrum that we are faced with, and that is exactly why today we don't have an IKS, but we have, let me call it a contemporary knowledge system, okay? A current knowledge system. A CKS and we have an IKS. But then if we are interested in IKS and we want to know what it is and how to bring it back, बहुत बारीकी से जाना पड़ेगा. It will not do to just say that, अच्छा चलो ये उखाड़ फेंकते हैं, revolution, okay, and we bring the other one back. Revolution in the area of education is very, very deep rooted. It takes a long time, but once the revolution comes, it doesn't go away easily. And we know what that means. To be on the other side, we have all been, we've faced the stick from that, right? So now, that is exactly what we are going to immerse in the next 45 minutes to 1 hour, to understand what is the essence of this education system that we so love, but we possibly do not completely understand what it is. We know approximately what it is, we identify with it, we love it, but we can't define it. Right? So this is what we are going to take, right? So if everyone's ready for this roller coaster, here we start, right? So let us start with understanding our current education system. So we know what IKS is not and what it is, right? It's easier to start from something that is known. What are the goals of our current education system? I'm just going to put it up here because I know pretty well every one of you knows this. A lot of time the arguments we make are that, it's personal, it is a fundamental right. How can education be denied to somebody? Education must be done, and hence put kids in the school. If you don't put kids in the school, then possibly it can even be offense. हमारे law के मित्र हैं यहाँ पे, बता सकते हैं कि वो कौन से section के अंदर it will be cognizable, right? So it is absolutely a fundamental right, and it is very important for physical, mental, and emotional well-being, right? Physical well-being, yes, we know. Mental and emotional well-being, it gives us the confidence. It gives us the way to actually go stand there in front of some place, right? So that is some kind of a mental well-being that it gives us in many different ways, right? And most importantly, these are all, by the way, stated goals by a United Nations organization. Okay, this is not something that I cooked up. So this is straight from one of those websites, right? So you have cultural goals which say understanding our cultural milieu, understand where we came from, what are we, what is a sense of identity, etc., etc. To understand that, we need education. There is an economic argument to it, which is the least cited but most true, right? Nobody wants to acknowledge it, but eventually we do what we do because पेट पूजा तो होती है इसमें, right? And that is the most important aspect. There's another argument which is basically social. Oh, we need to study, we need to do all of this because we want to become good citizens of our country. If we are not, we are not educated, we don't go through all of this, how will we contribute to society? How do we contribute to my country? How do I do something? How do I give back? Right? So this is also a legitimate argument, and I'm not saying any of these are wrong. They're all absolutely true. But the only question that I sometimes ask is, why are each of these so important? Let me ask the simple question. I can understand the roti kapda makan logic, right? Directly it affects us. But why do we sometimes care about being a good citizen? Chalo, let us say nobody is judging us on this basis, that you become a good citizen, not good citizen. Would we still do something for that? Why does it matter to us that we want to be known as good citizens? Morality, so nahi hai to kya hua? How does it matter? It's a guilty conscience. अच्छा चलो guilty conscience है तो क्या हुआ? पेट पूजा तो हो रही है ना? सॉरी, सोसाइटल प्रेशर, या लेकिन प्रेशर के ये चक्कर में पड़ते क्यों हैं हम? व्हाई डू वी फॉल फॉर दैट? सेल्फ एस्टीम आती है, अगर चलो हमारी सेल्फ एस्टीम गिर जाती है तो क्या हुआ? व्हाई आर वी बिहाइंड ऑल ऑफ दीज? We live in conformity. Again, we have to ask ourselves this question. These are all the same things. Self-esteem, conformity, peer pressure, societal pressure, all of these are essentially the same things by other means. But why do we care for all of this? Oh, I mean, you have leaped some 25 slides ahead. I will come back to you. So now, let's do the simpler questions, okay? So let's ask, roti kapda makan nahi to kya hua? Will we say tomorrow that I'll go to Gurukul? Roti kapda makan nahi to kya hai? जीवन में क्या है? खाने से क्या है? अलख निरंजन कर सकते हैं क्या? Can we say? Why? करने वाले तो हैं, बहुत कम सही, लेकिन करने वाले तो हैं, लेकिन हम क्यों नहीं कर पाते? What happens if you don't have roti? We won't be able to survive. अच्छा, तो वो बाद में आता है, 15-20 दिन के बाद में शायद मारे जाएंगे, लेकिन उससे पहले क्या होता है? Will we even go to the 20th day without food? We'll give up on the first day, right? Or second day maybe. What happens? What happens? Sorry? Pain, right? So hunger is a pain. If I'm sick and I need medical attention, I don't get it. सर दर्द कर रहा है. I'm in severe pain. अगर टैबलेट नहीं मिला, किसी ने नहीं दिया, तो I'm in severe pain. And pain is a very, very unpleasant thing. We want to run away from pain. We hate pain. चलो खाना है, सिर्फ रोटी कपड़ा मकान से नहीं चलता है. ऑर्डिनरी हर रोज वही दाल रोटी दिया तो हम लेते नहीं ना. We look for some gulab jamun, some rasgulla, something extra, right? Why do we go for that? Pleasure, right? So we all, taking something that we like gives us that feeling of happiness. It gives us that pleasure. And we actually live day to day, moment to moment for that pleasure. And if you think about it, that pleasure is the underlying reason for all of these above. We are giving 100 reasons, saying societal pressure, peer pressure, etc. Peer pressure क्यों होता है? Because if the next fellow says, what kind of a fellow are you? I mean, तू तो जंगली है, right? It pains. कहीं ना कहीं चुभता है कांटे की तरह अंदर. And जब चुभता है, तो that pain is unbearable, and then we give in to it and say, okay, chalo, let us conform to the society, right? So there is actually, in a way speaking, there is only one basic need that we all have. These are all of these can be reduced to just that one need, and which is the need to be happy, get pleasure, and the need to avoid the opposite of happiness, which is pain, right? So this is the most essential need that we have. And this is where Indian knowledge systems start, right? IKS, or India's knowledge system, India's education system, directly understands that come what may, whatever you may say, eventually what we do is to avoid pain, to abolish pain, to remove dukkha, and to obtain sukha, to obtain ananda, right? And this is what Indian knowledge systems originators understood and said, this is our basic need. बाकी जो कुछ भी कहते हैं वो भी है, लेकिन it all boils down to this. If tomorrow facing societal pressure becomes pleasurable, I'm pretty sure we will say, okay, let's face up to them. There are some people, right, especially the ones who go, who go to the army. They love this adrenaline rush. They love the danger, right? And these people look for danger. Arey yaar, counterintuitive. We will run away from danger, but there are some people who look for danger. They cannot live for a day without the challenge and without that living on the edge. Without that, they cannot survive. They love it. They enjoy it. It gives them pleasure, and hence they seek it. Right? So essentially what we all seek is that feeling of reward, that feeling of pleasure. If you were a biologist, you will name it by some hormone. Anyone here? Absolutely, right? So it's all dopamine, right? And then, of course, it's not just dopamine. We also know there are other, but anyway, it's not a biology class. I'm not getting in there. However, but we all know that this is what it is. We are looking for that small piece of dough, right? And this is where the genius of the Bharatiya Parampara comes into play. They said, well, if this is really what we are all after, why are we studying everything else? Even before we decide whom to educate, how to educate, what to give, etc., let us first understand what are the sources of joy, happiness. Let us understand the sources of dukkha, right? And once we have learned this, then we will decide kya karna hai, kya nahi karna hai, right? And that's where the story of IKS starts. It starts with understanding or making an analysis of sukha, ananda, and the reasons for dukkha. Now, technically, sukha, ananda have different connotations, but I won't get into it, right? But then now, I'm going to take you on the journey of the next 10, 15 minutes to understand it's like a treasure trail where we are going to find out why, what is the root of all this happiness, because that is going to be the starting point of this entire design philosophy of education, right? Education has a policy, and the policy statement is made saying that this is what we want to achieve, this is the design, and this is exactly what we will do. Okay? So now let's start with this. Say, we will start with something that we all very well know, right? So we all know that, we get happiness with chocolates, candies, etc. And this is a small kid, so her candy is this candy. हर एक के लिए candy, definition of candy अलग है. हमारे लिए शायद घर हो सकता है. It may be, a tour, it may be a holiday, it may be a house, it may be something else. But we all have our candies. And we love our candies. Sometimes we are even addicted to our candies, right? So this is the real truth. But then now the question is, okay, candy is here, the kid is here, how do we get the happiness? The candy is happiness, right? So candy gives you happiness. If the candy is taken away from the kid starts crying, right? Everybody agreed? So candy is equal to happiness. Right? So now let us say this kid has a cold, severe cold, okay? Now you give it the candy. Will it like to eat? It will maybe taste the candy and maybe even throw it away. It said, yuck. What happened? Why doesn't it like the candy now? Why did the kid, say, not nice? It makes faces sometimes. Or it doesn't even want to look at that candy. It's crying continuously. Why? Taste buds, right? Very beautiful. So when, your taste buds are obstructed and there is a coating on it, no amount of sweet will actually give you that pleasure, right? So, but then here is the point. We said candy is equal to happiness, but then really, candy mein happiness nahi hai. To obtain that candiness that is latent in that candy, I'll have to take it, put it into my tongue, let it come in touch with the taste buds. The sugar has to go in. There are receptors on the tongue. It identifies that this is the sugar. It goes all the way to the brain. And from there, you get your small dose of dopamine and say, wow, I love it, right? So to convert this candy into happiness, the transformation has to happen. Pehle, the candy has to come in contact with our taste buds, and then I get my happiness from here. So the happiness is not in the candy. Happiness is not in the candy. Candy is just like an ATM card. अंदर डाल दिया slot के अंदर, कर, you press the password, money comes out. पैसा कहाँ है? ATM machine के अंदर. लेकिन बाहर आता कैसा है? कार अंदर डालना पड़ता है. So you put the candy in, you get your happiness from here, right? So this is called Indriya Sukha, because the doorway through which I encash my happiness is through all the Indriyas. If I have a candy, I must give it to the tongue. If I'm watching my favorite movie, I have to give it to my eyes. Listening to my favorite, music, I have to give it to my ears, right? Can I take the candy and put it in the eye? That doesn't work, right? So you'll have to give it to the right door, and only then your happiness comes out. Everybody agrees now? So the happiness is coming from the indriyas, the sense organs. because external object came in contact with it, right? Now everybody agrees with this. Okay, so now the next thought experiment. You're all sitting here, right on the table in front of you, your favorite dishes. Imagine whatever it is, rasgulla, jamun, laddu, whatever it is. It's there right in front of you on that table, within your grasp, right? Your candy, your happiness is right there, right? So technically, my happiness is just 3 seconds away. However, the story is that your hands are tied behind your back, and so are your legs. You are restrained, tied to the seat, and you can't even bend down. Do you get your happiness? No. What do you actually get? More distress, because that is there in front of you and you're not able to get it, right? So why? Why was that? It was not able to touch your... So just sense organs are not enough. What else do we need apart from sense organs? We also need our motor organs, because the motor organs will have to ensure that the candies will touch the sense organs. So we also need the karmendriya. There is a jnanendriya and then there is a karmendriya. You need both of them together, all the dashendriya, right? You need all the dashendriyas to come together for us to be able to get our happiness, right? And that is what we are saying, that the objects come in contact through the senses and that gives us happiness. And this is called Indriya Sukha, right? So now I am going to give you another example. Now, is it possible that you can feel happy alone in a closed room, cut off from the world? You can't see anything, you can't hear anything, you can't taste anything, you can't touch anything, nothing. Can you be happy? How? Sorry? Oh, meditation, but anything else? Let's say you don't know meditation. Okay, so what kind of thoughts? Right, multiple things. I can keep thinking about the holiday that I went to yesterday. Wow, what a beautiful holiday. You know, I just went up the mountain, trekking in the Himalayas with a bunch of friends. We all went up there and suddenly, just as I was climbing up there, you know, it is dew drops, cool, and then I see the sunrise on the other side. The white peaks turn golden and absolutely beautiful. For a second, it just takes your breath away, right? And then, where are you? You're not in front of the mountain. You're not seeing it. You're not touching it. You're not hearing it. You're not doing anything. You're sitting in a closed room where you cannot see, hear, touch anything. But still, you're feeling that happiness. How? How is that? Is that imagination? No, it was a tour that you actually went to a week ago. That's your memory, right? So what does memory do? It takes the joy from your senses. It records in your brain. It records in your brain and then you can replay it, right? So this happens nowadays, that you don't have to physically take a card. You take the card and store it once in your phone. It remembers and then it keeps swiping, right? So we have something like that, and this is that happiness. Memories give you happiness. Previously stored Indriya Sukha is with us and we are able to do it. But then now I'm going to ask you, let us say you're not even imagining. You don't even, you don't even know what's happening. Can you still be happy? You're in a room completely not hearing, not talking, not doing, none of the senses are working, and you're not even imagining or remembering. Is it possible to be happy? Oh, that is, but even when you're in peace, you want to sit and then you will think of something that is peaceful. I'm talking about when you're completely, cut off, you're not, completely shut out from the whole world, right? You can actually look around you, you will find the answer. It's a post-lunch session, right? Right? So what is sleep? In sleep, you're completely cut off from this world. Just imagine somebody tells you, just before going to sleep at night, you're entering a state where you cannot see anything. You cannot hear, touch, see. You will be cut off from all your near and dear ones. They will be taken far away from you. You cannot talk to them. They cannot talk to you. You will be lost to this world, into this deep tunnel of darkness. Will you ever sleep? We can't sleep for next 2 hours, right? But then, it's true that we all sleep. We all love to cut ourselves off from this world and actually go to sleep, and when, it's really lovely, right? We absolutely love this feeling. And when do we realize the value of that sleep? How beautiful it is? Right? After waking up. Somebody wakes you up in the morning, the alarm rings. Okay? When the alarm rings, that is the most distressing moment. You realize, "Arey yaar, kitni achhi neend thi yaar, khul gaya." Right? You feel that, you have lost that beautiful state that you were in, where you are completely cut off from this world. Right? It looks so fearful, but we love it. We can be cut off from this world completely, but we love it. But the only trouble is, we get to know that it was such a beautiful state only after we have woken up, right? Sometimes you wish, "Arey yaar, Puri, if all the 8 hours I knew how beautiful it was, it would be so nice, right?" We have kind of cut off from that. It would be so nice if all the 8 hours, every single moment, I am able to actually enjoy how beautiful it is. But unfortunately, that's not to be. We are cut off from this world, but during our waking experience, we actually enjoy every moment. We enjoy every moment, but we will have to engage with the world. But in sleep, we can be happy without engaging, cutting ourselves off from this world, but we don't realize. So now it's normal to ask, can I get the best of both worlds? Can I cut myself off from this whole world, be very happy, but also be aware every single moment that I am cut off from this world, but so beautiful. I am all by myself. I am all alone. There is nothing else here. I am only here and in my whatever state I am in, and it is so beautiful. Right? This is not something that any of us are acquainted with. We haven't seen something like this. But that, turns out, is the most important contribution of the Bharatiya society. And it is this beautiful state where you are able to cut yourself off from this world, but still be aware of it every single moment, and you enjoy that happiness, you enjoy that peace, you enjoy that feeling. This is the biggest contribution of the Bharatiyas, which is unparalleled to this day. This is the biggest and the most unique export of the Bharatiyas outside of our country, and this is one thing that continues to bring people in droves back to our country and saying, if you ever have to know this, it has to be in Bharat. Right? So this is one of our biggest contributions, and this is the highest state of happiness and knowledge which the Bharatiyas found it and said, yes, this is the real Ananda. This is the real Sukha. This is the real state that everyone should really enjoy, everyone should really have. And this is the starting point, in a way, of the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. Right? Now, when we look at this, we know that this is a very special state, and this state, we call it as Atma Sukha, for the simple reason that the previous one was called Indriya Sukha, because we get it through the doors of the Indriya. But here, you can cut yourself off from here. It is a happiness that I'm getting from inside me. It is mine. It is mine. I don't have to depend on anybody else. That is why it is simply called, it's my Sukha or Atma Sukha. Right? Atma means self, mine. Right? And it is my Sukha which I have got from within myself. Right? And this particular state has many names. Right? These are all the different names for that particular state of happiness. I'm going to pinpoint one particular name especially, and the reason I'm pinpointing it is because that is part of the name Bharatiya Jnana Parampara. Right? We didn't say Bharatiya Ananda Parampara, we said Bharatiya Jnana Parampara, but it is an equivalent, it is a synonym of the same thing, but we have to understand, but we know Jnana is knowledge, right? But how is knowledge connected to happiness, and why is this word used, right? So this is a small detour we will take so that we understand this, right? So I want you all to maybe think of this thought experiment, right? All of you imagine that you put out your hands, okay? Actually, you can put your hands out in front of you, right? Imagine your hands are, your ears, your eyes are tied, okay? So you don't see what's happening. Please close your eyes, right? You close your eyes, and just imagine I have brought you here onto the podium, and 100,000 people are looking at you, right? 100,000 people are looking at you, you're in the hot seat, the light's right on you. The challenge for you here is that something is going to be dropped into your hands, and you have to correctly say what is it, right? If you do it right, you win the World Cup. And if you lose it, eternal shame waits you, right? And now just imagine yourself, the object drops in, let's say it's an apple, you slightly close your hands, you feel it, you turn it around, you see that smoothness, you heard the sound that it took when it plonked into your hands, and yes, it's an apple, right? Now at this moment, you can open your eyes, you found that yes, this is an apple, right? And I wish I had done a video recording from this side here of the whole audience, and we would have had a beautiful picture, and I should have put it in slow motion, and you would have seen people's face literally being tense, and then a little bit, and the moment they know what it is, and then, there is a small, gentle smile that opens up on people's faces, and they see, yes, and it's relief, it's happiness, it's joy, and it is the realization that, yes, I have known what this thing is, right? So in this moment, when it dawned on you, what did you have? Did you have knowledge or did you have happiness? You had happiness, but the happiness came from knowledge, right? So which came first, knowledge or happiness? It's actually very difficult to say. If you have to do that, you'll actually have to run an EEG experiment on each one of you, put you up there, and then figure out which came first. And it is not an easy thing. A lot of times, there are interesting results that say that the joy that comes from a reward precedes the reward. Many times it does happen, right? So it is almost very difficult to actually say whether the ananda came first or the jnana of this particular thing came first. So the jnana and ananda are many times synonymous. They are two sides of the same coin. And this is something that is absolutely counterintuitive, right? This is very, very counterintuitive. Until you run this experiment, you will not actually know that it can actually, give you that kind of an happiness. That moment of realization is a particular state of mind where all the evidence has come through, and then it flashes and say, yes, this is what it is. How many of you are creative artists here? Cartoonists? Okay, 1, 2. So if you were to draw a cartoon for this, okay, what would you actually put up on the top of the head, like you have here? Would you put up a bulb like this? Very common in these cartoons, that when somebody has an idea, you want to put a bulb. Why do we do that? Why don't we put a fan? But where is that light? What light is this? We are talking of the realization that this is apple. But why? Who made that? Who made that association? Right? It's a universal symbol that cartoonists use across the world, and everybody understands it. But where is that light? I mean, do you really see that light? You don't? Then how is it that we understand when you put a light bulb that they've got an idea? Sorry? Yes? I mean, light enables us to see, I can understand here. But inside my head, did I turn on that bulb and then search for it in room by room? It acts, that's a metaphor. I can think of knowledge as being a fan. Why light? The very fact that people use a light bulb for inspiration and others also understand it means that there is something to it. I have never seen a cartoonist put a fan there instead of a light bulb, right? Anyone seen? I don't think anyone does. So what is there about that light bulb and that moment of aha, that eureka moment? I mean, just because we call it enlightenment, it's lighter. If we had called it enfanment, empanelment. But, cartoonists don't know about neuroscience. I mean, isn't it surprising? We all use that, but why do we use that? हाँ, दिमाग की बत्ती ऐसे बोलते हैं, लेकिन क्यों बोलते हैं? Right? It is symbol, but how are symbols made? Can I tomorrow make a symbol that is something else? This symbol is universal. It has stood the test of time. So there must be something special about this symbol. Symbols are not arbitrary, right? I mean, symbols, you can say, are arbitrarily defined. I can also think of it as बहुत सारा कूड़ा है और कूड़ा मतलब साफ कर दिया तो झाड़ू क्यों नहीं लगा देते वहाँ पे? That also is a good analogy, right? It works. As an analogy, it works after I explain. But without explaining, it doesn't work. Right? So there is something that there is a natural similarity between that moment of eureka and that flash of lightning. Right? I can put a bulb, I can also put a lightning. It will be understood, but I can't put a fan, I can't put a jhadu, I can't put a table. I can't put something arbitrary. I can put only certain class of objects. And people will understand, and that is because there is a connection between that state of mind where you have this eureka and the light bulb, which until this moment there was darkness, nothing was there. But in that few microseconds, milliseconds, when the light came on, it came like a streak, and then suddenly it came. There is a certain spontaneity to it. There is an immediacy to it. There is a flash of lighting. There is a shock, but it's a pleasant shock, right? And that is very, very similar to the kind of experience you have when you have this eureka. So it is very, very natural because the experience itself is such. Because the experience of realization, the experience of knowledge is very similar to a flash of light coming on, and we experience it and we identify it with it. And that is why we are able to use the symbolism of an electric bulb or a flash of lightning, and people also understand. Right? And that is why in the Indic milieu, you see these equivalences. One is joy, ananda, jnanam or knowledge, and light. Right? And the opposites, pain, is associated with ignorance, associated with darkness, right? And this is where all of this is coming from. There is a spontaneity to it. So now we must also remember, based on our previous discussion, that there are two kinds of knowledge that one can have, right? We get knowledge about objects in the outside world, apples, tables, chairs, fans, which we touch, see, hear, etc. There is also a different kind of knowledge of the final variety, which we saw, where you cut yourself off from this world, and then something comes up. You realize, like the Buddha, you realize what happened, right? And these are the two kinds of sukha, which we are going to call as the Indriya Sukha and the Atma Sukha. And so we said Sukha is equal to knowledge, right? So you can replace Sukha with Jnanam here, and you can call Indriya Jnanam and the Atma Jnanam. Right? And I'm pretty sure you've heard these words before. Now, this is the most important question. Okay, sir ji, आपने सब कुछ बता दिया, मान लेता हूँ, पर ये क्यों चाहिए हमें? I am happy with the knowledge of all of these. Why do you want me to cut myself off from this world? Why do you have to bring this into the ज्ञान परंपरा? आप उन्हीं के पास रखिए, ऋषि मुनियों के लिए जंगल के अंदर रख लीजिए. हम लोग शहर में रहते हैं, हमारे लिए यही काफ़ी है बस. Thank you very much. Right? So why should this disconnecting from the world be part of all of these knowledge systems or whatever it is, right? How many of you think that disconnecting from the world, cutting yourself off from this world is important? How many of you think it is important? How many of you genuinely think it is not important? And if you think so, please raise your hands. Okay, so. All right, so now I'm going to ask you a question. Those of you who think it is important, why is it important? To get original thinking. Original thinking ke liye you have to go out, you have to expose yourself to the world, you have to travel far and wide, only then you will get original ideas. Look inwards, kaise aise? Closing your eyes, but close your eyes, you may only get hallucination. Okay, let us say not everybody needs to do something that is so highly intellectual, right? I mean, I don't need to do something that intellectual. Self-reflection, yes. Okay, so let's look at this particular example. It's a cricket match. It's a season of cricket matches. Last ball, 6 runs to win, it's a World Cup. And you are batting, right? You're batting and you're on strike, not on the non-striker end, okay? So just imagine 100,000 people all around roaring, okay, and shouting, India, India, and then they know your name also. So you can imagine, if the last ball you hit a 6, life set, ho gaya. I mean, forever and ever, your name goes into history books. But if you miss, khalas, career is over, right? And forever and ever, you're a villain. Just imagine how you're going to feel. Everybody screaming, and you are this guy. Do you think that guy is listening to every single thing that people are talking in the stadium? He's at least listening to 50% of what people are screaming in the stadium. He's only focusing on the ball. His complete attention is on the ball. He's looking at the ball as the ball comes out of the bowler's arm. He's focused on the run-up. The bowler comes in. The ball is right here. Focus right there. He's not seeing the bowler. He's not seeing the bowler's hands or the bowler's head or his tantrum. It's only the ball, like Arjuna hitting the bird, right? It's only and only the ball, and as the ball is released, he looks at it, his hands come in position, and then fat. It's a 6 and your life is made. But if he had listened to those 100,000 people outside, then things would have been really gone, right? So he's not some kind of an intellectual, right? I mean, he's not doing some intellectual activity, nor is he a Rishi Muni sitting somewhere in the forest. But even he needs to cut himself off from the rest of the world. And we all need to do that because it is impossible to function. It is impossible to function at a high level of performance if we do not have the ability to cut ourselves off from this world, at least temporarily. Just as it is important to immerse ourselves completely in the world, it is also important to actually draw back. It's also important to be able to cut ourselves off from this world. And both of them are absolutely essential, without which we cannot be successful in whatever profession we take. And rightly somebody said it's a question of distraction, it's a question of focus. All of that demands that we be able to engage with the world and also detach from the world and have all of these. And these two kinds of happinesses that you get have very specific names. We talk about bhoga and we talk of yoga. The material joys are bhoga, and the ones that you enjoy inside is yoga, right? And from bhoga to yoga is a full spectrum. And even if you say, I don't want all of those yoga that everyone talks about, everybody needs it in some amount of measure. We all have to find our position on the spectrum somewhere in between bhoga and yoga, and without which we cannot be able to function, right? And this is essentially, I'm going to drop in the D word here and say the ability to balance the bhoga and the yoga. The ability to completely immerse in this world and enjoy, and the ability to disconnect yourself and say, no, at this moment I don't want it. The ability to do both of it without getting stuck anywhere is called dharma, right? And I'm so thankful to Amiji for having introduced this word already, because I'm going to tell you how an academic treatment or how education in this area can solve all those conundrums and problems that Amiji referred to some time back, where people set narratives, people say something else, and then we have a doubt. Then you have to go ask somebody, they will say something. But I'm going to tell you how all of this can be worked out. You can work it out for yourself, and that was part of our Indian knowledge systems as well, right? So balance of these opposites is dharma, and dharma is the cornerstone of life in Bharata. We are moving towards understanding how the education system was designed, but in order to do that, how much time do I have? Okay, another 15 minutes, 20, okay, right. So if this is what is dharma, how does it match up with what Amiji said, right? And we will see that all of that will go here. And from now on, we have done the difficult things. We have understood the difficult things. We can go faster, right? Progress is always slow when you're just starting to dig the tunnel. After some time, things are faster, right? So Now, the dharma in real life basically means that if you are eating something, whether it is rasgulla or jamun, right? You want to be able to eat it, relish it, enjoy it and say, beautiful. But you also want to be able to give it up after the fourth or fifth one and say, no, thank you, enough, I'm done. Right? You want to be able to engage with the world, be completely immersed with your team, firefight, work, do everything. But end of the day, not carry all of it back home. Forget it and go back home and be able to sleep peacefully. That is immersion and then detachment. Earn well, which is all the money coming in. But don't try to completely, stock it up inside and make sure not a penny goes out. Spend well, enjoy well, and give it away also. Let the money that comes in also go out. And that is attachment and this is detachment, right? Have a good life, but when your time is up, retire and happily fade away. Because all leaves on the trees, when the time comes, they have to drop and they will be replaced by new leaves. This is the law of nature. So attach, but be ready to detach when you're able to do, right? Harvest the crop, enjoy the fruits of your labor, but also sow, water the next bunch of plants that come up so that the next generation or whoever else can get the same joys again, right? So practically speaking, immersion and detachment in dharma, in life is like this, right? And now, what is the result of this? If one is able to achieve this dharma, which is balance of immersion and then detachment, the system is going to be healthy. We all know if you overeat, obviously the system is not healthy, right? But if you're able to achieve some moderation and balance, system is healthy. You'll be able to maintain physical and mental health. And most importantly, you will be able to keep the cycle going. And hence, the actual crux of dharma is that you should let the cycle keep going, right? So you have trees. You pluck fruits. But if the fruits are seedless, what happens? The cycle is cut off. You don't complete the cycle. From seed to tree to fruit, back to seed to tree to fruit. This is one whole cycle. If you break the cycle somewhere in between, then dharma is gone and you have not been able to achieve the whole spectrum. And this is where this can be another definition for dharma and it is equivalent. We derived it saying that be able to attach and detach. Another way of saying is dharma is make sure you keep the cycle going. Everything should keep going on. For example, let's say I'm a Mali. I'm in charge of this particular garden. Okay? I take care of the garden, water, pluck the fruits and then take them. Okay? But tomorrow weeds have started growing. Okay? Weeds start growing. Now the mango tree has its own cycle. Weed also has its own cycle. Right? Now what is my duty? What am I supposed to do? Should I allow the weed to grow? Yes? No? No? But I just said keep the cycle going. That is dharma. So does the weed not have its own cycle? Should I not allow it to have its cycle? Sorry? Oh, so that means I have to be selfish and take care of only my cycle? That is not dharma. A lot of people make that, that's absolutely not true. So what is my profession? What did I say I am? I am a Mali. And what is a Mali's main job? What is he responsible for? Maintaining the garden. Okay? So, and garden is made up of all of those trees, all of those flowers, plants, etc. Okay? If I allow the mango tree to grow, nobody else is affected. I get mango fruits. But if I allow the weeds to grow, it destroys the garden. Right? If I allow the weeds to grow, it destroys the garden, it spoils the system, right? So when I say keep the cycle going, we know that the system's health is most important, right? So even if that weed happens to be my brother, chacha, dada, grandfather, whatever it is, right? You can go back and think of what Krishna says to Arjuna, right? So he says, oh, it is my relatives, my people, how can I kill them? That is the adharma, right? Essentially what we are saying here now. Killing the weed is adharma because it has its own cycle. It has a right to live. Every plant has a right to live. How can I kill it? But then when you look at the system, if you allow this individual to grow, the entire system collapses. And hence, the health of the system is most important. Prioritize the system, and that is Dharma. Allow the system to function, allow the system and its cycle to go on, and that is Dharma. And that is why they say the gati of Dharma is very, very sukshma. It's very subtle. It's very difficult to understand. You will be able to understand it only if you understand the entire system. Not some small, you have a specialization in weed, you have a specialization in mango trees, you cannot decide what Dharma is. You have to be able to understand the entire system, not just of the orchard, but also of the interdependence of the surrounding communities to the orchard, the impact of the orchard on the climate or whatever else it is, soil replenishment, the whole thing. If you understand the whole system, you have the ability to take care of the cycles of the whole system and keep it intact. Only such a person should talk of Dharma. Only such a person should define what Dharma is. Others can follow what has been defined. Right? That is exactly what Krishna says. Right? Cyclical, continuous. And it turns out that this is not just our formula. If you think, nature is also employing the same thing. Right? What does the sun do? It engages with the world for about 12 hours. And the other 12 hours, it detaches. It goes away. Or you can say the earth engages with the sun for 12 hours and then detaches. But does it ever do that, let me not have a day and a night phase, let me have 24/7, but small gray kind of thing. It doesn't happen all the time, right? Maybe one odd day you may have. But this turns out that it is nature's favorite recipe, which is to say whenever you have these balance, whenever you detach and attach and detach, you do this cyclically. Everything in nature is cyclical. You can start looking at this. The days are cyclical. Our patterns of wake and sleep are cyclical. And our pattern of wake and sleep are interlocked with day and night. And that is why when you go to America, you have something, a little bit of a problem, right? You have jet lag, right? And that's because my cycle is not matching with the cycle of the world outside. What is there in the Pindanda has to be in consonance with the Brahmanda. Both the cycles need to be running synchronously, else you have a problem, and that is jet lag, right? Now look at this. This is also a cycle. Water is a cycle, right? Water is most essential. You may ask, what is the point of evaporating all that water, make it go up, and then rain brings it down? Can't you leave it there itself? But that's not how nature works. Nature does everything cyclically. Water is evaporated, goes up, comes down. The seasons come cyclically. The birds, they do their migration cycles. There is life cycle of butterfly. There is, our hormones activate cyclically. Everything in our body is actually cyclical. You have something called circadian rhythms. If these rhythms or hormones ever get disrupted, our health is going to be spoiled. And today, most of the lifestyle diseases are largely because we have completely disrupted our circadian rhythms. How many of you stay in hostels or have stayed in hostels? Right. When does the sun rise? Right? So the joke in our lab always is that students are no different from lab rats. Because for rats, night is day and day is night. Right? And if you lead such lives where the cycles in the Pindanda are completely antiphase with those in the Brahmanda, after some time, nature will hit back. You will face the consequences of it. And that is adharma. When your cycles are not in consonance with the rest of it. So this is also a cycle. The menstrual cycle is a cycle. You have cycle in nasal cycles. Every 2 hours, our breath dominance shifts from the left to right. Right? All of these are cycles. Everything is a cycle here. Right? Everything in nature is cyclical. And this looks like is nature's recipe of maintaining things in health, which is to ensure that the cycles keep going. If you do something artificial, try to do some maybe cloud seeding, etc., you may have a good day on one particular day, but if the system is spoiled, it's going to lead to something that is really disastrous, right? And when we see all of these cycles, can anybody spot a pattern in cycles? How do you classify all these cycles if you ever have to? What goes around comes around, but how do you classify these different cycles? You have to put it in one category or the other. No, that is one cycle, but if you have to describe, if you have to separate the cycle itself, or these are all cycles, you have to put them in two categories, okay? Based on timing, right? Those of which that have a time period of 1 day, those which have a time period of more than a day or less than a day, based on the time period. You can also separate it out based on cycles which are happening within us, which are happening outside in the cosmos, right? So all of these different ways of putting all of these cycles together, and there are some cycles which are cycles of individuals, some are cycles of entire groups. Have you seen any economists here? Okay, so do you know of economic cycles? So whose cycle is this? The cycles, the upturns and downturns of economy, right? So who's the player here? Is it the cycle of every one of us, any one of us? Market forces. So who is that? Is that a person? It's a collective, right? So now the entity is not an individual. The entity is a collective, and collectives have an existence of their own. Collectives have an existence of their own, and they have their cycles. So economy is a collective. You have a collective cycle that goes up and down, right? So now I'm going to quickly go ahead and say that this is something that we have, but the point I wish to make, that the whole world is a giant clockwork. And this giant clockwork, we are also one of those small wheels somewhere, and every single thing about us or everything about anything outside is also a small wheel. But the beauty is none of them are disconnected. We are all interconnected. And the whole nature or entire Prakriti is a huge, huge clockwork of interconnected gears and wheels. And so now, if you have to define Dharma at this massive scale, you will have to say that make sure this clockwork is running fine. If you ever disrupt any single piece or part of this clockwork, you will pay for it, right? Right? Dharmo rakshati rakshitaha. If you destroy any part of the clockwork destroys you, right? So what? The clockwork indulges in vengeance, right? If you destroy the clockwork, you're automatically destroyed because you are part of that whole piece, right? You're going to be destroyed. And that is the sense in which it is said that dharmo rakshati rakshitaha, because you're all one big, large clockwork, and if you leave this, we're going to have a problem, right? But most importantly, please look at the bottom here. The cycles apply not just to individuals, to families, to communities, to villages, to country, humanity, the world, and the entire cosmos. It applies to this whole thing, and this is the huge machinery, clockwork, where one has to apply Dharma. And the interesting thing is, the meaning of Dharma, if you look at its, just what the word means, it just means from Dhrang Avasthane and from Dharana, Poshane, it means to sustain. It just literally means to sustain, that if you take care of the clockwork, we are all going to be there. And the reason why I'm focusing on this is because Dharma is the only single design principle based on which our entire education system is designed. It is the single design principle based on which our lifestyles, our everything is designed, because Dharma by itself means sustainability. I mean, not like today, where today also we do a lot of things, we break a lot of things, and then eventually we decide, oh, we need sustainability. We need to take care of climate control, and then you start a new area of study called sustainability, right? But in the Indic scheme of things, everything is already here, right? But now, this is the story so far, okay? The design principle of Indian knowledge systems is completely based on Dharma, and because it is based on Dharma and on this whole clockwork, it is able to say that if you abolish the darkness, and you know what darkness is, right? Darkness is equal to pain, it is equal to ignorance, it is the opposite of light, it's the opposite of happiness, and it is the opposite of knowledge, right? And this is the reason why the knowledge system of Bharat looks at everything. It has all of these, maths, astronomy, physics, chemistry, it has all of it. But where does it differ from the contemporary knowledge systems? Its single point of design is to say maintain dharma. You want to do chemistry, you do chemistry, but maintain dharma. Maintain whose dharma? Dharma of everything. I am going to create plastics, okay? Is it right or wrong? Okay, is it dharma or not? How do you find that out? Find out what are the cycles that are disrupted or impacted by creation of a new material called plastic. It could be water cycle, it could be some ecological cycle, soil cycle, our own food cycle, everything. And ask the question, does it impact it negatively? If it does, then it should not be used in the first place at all. Not use it for 100 years and then realize that no, it should not be used. Right from day one, the moment you figure out that it is doing something, you take it off, right? And this is the Bharatiya Jivan Paddhati, where dharma is the starting point of everything. When somebody's education system has to be designed, you design it such that you tell the person, give the person an understanding of dharma. Only after the understanding of dharma is given, that you allow the person to now start enjoying the artha and the kama, right? We said that we need to do both, engage with the world and also disconnect yourself, right? But if you want to engage and disconnect before you're allowed to do engage, etc., first learn what is dharma, first learn how to engage and how to disconnect. Only after that you get into the field. If you want to drive a vehicle, learn it in your backyards, maybe on an empty street, take your license and then get onto the roads, right? And so that is why it goes from dharma, artha, kama and moksha. The Indian knowledge system teaches you all of this. It's not that they only teach you something like that. I'm going to show you just a list of all the things that are part of the Indian knowledge systems, which is almost everything that the contemporary knowledge system has. However, when you do it, the order in which things are taught are different. You start with dharma, and once dharma is taught, then you go on and tell them that artha and kama and how do you engage with the rest of the world, right? So I'm going to quickly rush ahead and just show you what's there in the Indic education system, right? So if you look at all the, the vidyas, you will see every single department that is there in the current education system. And if you look at the set of kalas, and if you add both of them together, you will see every single thing that is there in our current systems. So for example, you can look at Pakadi or Ayurveda, which is the equivalent of today's culinary and then also medical sciences. You will see Abhiyantriki, which is basically the engineering sciences. You will see Griha Lankara, etc., which is basically design and home science, home decor, all of those, right? And then you will see Dhanurvediya, and then you will see the political and the military aspects, which is basically martial arts, sciences, etc., right? And you also see the Kridaniyaka, which is basically designing edutainment tools, right? So you design toys. But how do you design toys? When you design toys, make sure that those toys will be able to teach you also something, and most importantly, they don't get stuck into some looping cycle somewhere so that you're unable to give up, right? So a lot of you must have heard Ratul's talk yesterday and how compulsion looping works. What's happening in compulsion looping? It gets you attached to your device, right? But if dharma were to be followed, you should also be able to give it up, right? But the systems are such that it catches you the moment you come in and then doesn't allow you to detach. So there you have a loss of dharma, and that is why it is bad, right? So you have one single formula and framework by which you can evaluate a variety of different technologies and say what should be done, how it should be done, how something should not be done, right? If somebody wants to design public policy, right? So very often, we do joint projects and work with schools of public policy and social sciences. A very common question that is being asked today is, what is the right way to utilize mineral resources? What is the right way to utilize water resources, right? What is the right level of taxation, right? A lot of these kind of questions are getting asked. And if Bharatiya Jnana Parampara were to be followed, then the simple answer to that would be to start with Dharma, and that gives you a design principle for whatever policy you want to design, and you will be able to get it, right? And if you want to ask, how much should be the water capacity in a particular dam? Whether dams should be allowed or not, right? And now you ask yourself the question, what happens in nature? Can you put a rule and say that the clouds cannot store water? Right? That's not nature's way. Nature goes cyclically, and you must allow the cycle to flow. So dams are natural, but if you say I want to build the biggest dam that will not allow any water to go down to my next state, then that's a problem. Right? So the policy framework of Dharma gives you very simple and effective ways of designing policy to say how you will encounter each of the challenges that we have today. It tells us how to build systems around technology. It tells us how to do engineering. It tells us almost a lot of the different challenges and issues that we face today. But provided we use the policy frameworks or design systems within the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara and make them count, then a lot of these will happen. So this is just a quick overview of what all is there in the Bharatiya Jnana Paramparas. You have linguistics, grammar, phonetics, semantics, astronomy, maths, construction, medicine, military, warfare, performing arts, politics, philosophy, jurisprudence, law. It's just about every single thing. It's just about every single thing that you have in the contemporary knowledge systems. However, the same thing has been innovated upon, but with a Dharma Drishti, without losing focus of Dharma and being able to say, how do you define these things? And that is the essence of the Bharatiya Jnana Parampara or the Indian knowledge systems. This is another small chart that tells you that almost every single item that you can think of today, they're all there in the outer peripheries. And the traditional Indian knowledge system areas of study are in the center. And you can clearly map between each of them to the point that if one had to recreate, let us say, a division of mechanical engineering, etc., you should be able to take the best of current understanding of mechanical engineering systems along with the Bharatiya Drishti. If you want to build a program around culinary sciences, you should be able to get the best of what you have today along with the best of the Bharatiya Paddhatis of Paka Shastra. You should be able to do that in every single area, and it is possible to do. A lot of the places we are actually currently doing it right now. But very importantly, as far as youth are concerned, I mean, we are all going to be wondering, well, is this even practical? Can I ever get into something like this? Will I be able to take care of my roti, kapda, makan? Absolutely yes. The reason is that this system actually survived in a country for long because the economic systems or the arthic systems actually supported it. There was a way of building artha around Dharma because the education system started with Dharma and then went to Artha, Kama, and then Moksha, right? So if that be the design principle, one actually can, even today, build an economic system that goes around what you call as Dharma, and the way to do it is to make sure that you look at the assets that we have today that draw its essential value from Dharma and place them at the center, right? One of them could be, let us say, temples, right? The other one could be the institutions of, let us say, the Ayurveda traditions, right? These are all economic powerhouses today. Did you know that yoga is worth about $60 billion today? It's a $60 billion industry. Ayurveda is also likewise the same thing. Tourism is about around $150 to $200 billion industry, inbound tourism, and a lot of it is actually cultural tourism. People don't come here to see the glitzy malls and all of that. People come here to see our cultural assets and live life here. People just want to go live in the rural areas and get into village tourism. Just live life in the villages, that life of peace, maybe a little bit of hardship, living with the cows in the jungles, walking through them, plucking berries, doing all of this, but we want that life. And why do they want that life? Because temporarily they want to disconnect with the hustle and bustle of everyday urban life. And that's Dharma finding a way to get back at it. And that is why you actually have cultural tourism that is actually picking up. And if you put cultural tourism and all of those assets at the center, but when you develop them, it has to be developed with care. There are multiple sectors that make a successful industrial system. Firstly, of course, is academia and research, because somebody really has to understand what that system is. For example, let us say tourism is what you are building around, okay? And let us say I own a beautiful property somewhere in the hills. There is a Tirtha Kshetra, there is an old temple, nice rivers flowing by, and I am the zamindar of this whole place, let us say, right? And I have the ability to develop this. Now, if I were to say, okay, how do I make the best money out of it? Hire n number of cabs, come overrun this place, set up homestays all over the place, build a glitzy mall, and then I've made all my money, then that's not the right way to build the assets using the principle of Dharma, because people are coming here to be able to disconnect temporarily, but you're not allowing them to do that. It may work in the short run. People may actually give you money. You may be able to earn something, but it is not sustainable. So you need a way to understand the original assets. What is the value of the asset? What is the historicity of the asset? What is the authenticity in the asset? All of it needs to be researched on. Systems need to be in place. You need to understand the science behind the culture. If you're giving a Panchakarma therapy, then you should be able to tell them how it works on your physiology. It gives people an additional sense of belonging and a way to connect with that system, right? So one should understand the science behind Indian knowledge systems and heritage, but one must also build technology support systems for benefiting Indian knowledge systems. And that is what academia and research does. But once they do it, they have to have a way of transitioning it into industry. Academia cannot scale up, right? So the scaling up happens through startups and entrepreneurships. And industries will actually take these services, offer the services at scale. One person may do a very deep research on the historicity of a particular place. But if I actually want to offer tourist services to that place, that's not something a professor can do. That is something that a person in the industry with experience and expertise in logistics and being able to scale a business must do. But then they need to work together, be able to do it. Government policy must actually support it. If government policy comes in and says, oh, all the Tirtha Kshetras are very, very sacred, don't allow anybody to get in there. Right? Now you can do nothing, right? And most importantly, you must work on the first question that everybody said, which is, peer pressure. Come what may, we want acceptance from our peers because that gives us that little bit of happiness. We are unable to let go. So work on mass appeal, work on social acceptability, work on making it cool, right? But without actually trading away the heart and soul of the particular asset. And if something like that is done, it is very, very much possible to build genuine economic sectors around Indian knowledge systems and heritage. That's something that we have been doing along with many other people. It's absolutely possible. And this is where I feel, the young set of people, the wannabe entrepreneurs, the wannabe scientists, technologists, this is the right time and right place for you because the explosion in Indian knowledge system industries is growing. There was a recent report that we authored along with multiple other people. We estimated that in about 10 years, 2035, just the Indian knowledge systems and heritage industry is likely to be a $1 trillion industry. It's likely to be a $1 trillion industry, and this is our chance to actually catch up. But my only thing is, if we do not catch up with it by keeping the core of Dharma at heart, all that I talked about in the first 80% of my talk was about core Indian knowledge systems. But what I'm talking right now is absolute practical, pragmatic stuff on the street, okay? So we absolutely can do that. It's not about just talking in the air and just giving a katha pravachan about Dharma, but it is about actually implementing it on the ground, being able to build systems, economies of scale and industries that do not dilute the essence of Dharma. It actually spreads Dharma around, but actually provides artha and kama as well. And that is the need of the hour, and this is something where all the youth can absolutely have a huge role to play. And possibly with this, I will stop. I mean, the number of slides are pretty much endless, so I'm just going to skip over this and ask you to just have a look at it. These are all the areas of study we have. Not we as in this is what exists, and mapped on to current areas of study. This is how one can ease oneself into this discipline, this academic discipline, or into the IKS and heritage ecosystem. Huge amount of work is happening on this across the country. We are at an inflection point where academia, industry, government policy makers, everybody has gotten into the act to make this happen. And that is why I say it's an absolutely amazing time to be here in this place, and no better place than the Young Thinker Forum to do this. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramaya, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukha bhag pado. Harihi, namaste. And, right, so, yes, please.
सर राइट नाउ अगर हम देखें कि गुरुकुल शिक्षा पद्धति है जिसे हम इंडियन नॉलेज सिस्टम कह रहे हैं, वो अपने फुल फॉर्म में नहीं है, और काफ़ी हद तक देखें तो वो कर्मकांड पे बहुत फोकस करते हैं. हम क्या कह सकते हैं कि वो कैसे कैसे इम्प्रूव करे कि वो डिमांड एंड वैल्यू के साथ compete कर सकें.
राइट, बहुत अच्छा प्रश्न है. लेकिन ये नहीं कह सकते हैं कि सिर्फ कर्मकांड के ऊपर कॉन्सेंट्रेट कर रहा है, ज्ञान कांड के ऊपर पे भी काम कर रहा है, जैसे
या फिर वो परफेक्ट है, अभी परफेक्ट है.
करेक्ट, लेकिन कोई भी चीज़ परफेक्ट नहीं है, पर there is an element of truth in what you say, that in a way the current gurukuls are a little bit cut off from the rest of the world. There is a little bit more of disconnect and detachment than the immersion. Whereas there are certain other industries where we are far too much enmeshed in the world around us but are unable to give up. So I think the need of the hour is for both of these systems to come together, work together, and be able to get the right balance of both the Jnanakand, the Karmakand, and also being able to engage with the world on its terms today. It's already started. It's starting by where, Gurukuls, Sanskrit universities, Indian knowledge system specific centers are coming together along with IITs, IIMs, ICERs, all of these places to figure out how exactly we do this. I showed you the diagram where the dharmic assets are in the center and you have academia, industry, everybody coming in together to exactly show what is the blueprint for such an industry to come up. That's a complete lecture of its own. But that's something that can be done. We are doing it right now. So the way to start is first these people have to come together, some amount of engagement with the world, understand the rules of the game, which is basically what is the Arthik system today, understand what is the dharmic core, how do you make sure that you build an Arthik system without diluting the Arthik core. And this has to be done by teams, interdisciplinary teams from both sides. And a lot of work also needs to happen where you will have to do some kind of lobbying with the policymakers, with governments, etc., etc. You will have to work with financiers, with the markets to set up the requisite funds, etc. You will also have to enable the transition of technology and expertise from academia to the industry. Make sure that industry doesn't just ride because there is demand in the market and says, kuch bhi chalta hai, right? Bring about awareness in amongst the consumers and tell them that when, parak ke dekhiye, don't consume anything and everything in the name of IKS because, somehow our hearts are with them, right? Actually look for the genuine offerings. Look if there is the heart of IKS is there in it. Look if people are only making a sham of it and taking you for a ride. Look and ask for the real ones. I mean, you remember the ads that have always been run where you say, okay, ISI mark, please ISO mark, look at the quality of the things, don't get cheated, kind of things. I think things of that kind also need to be done for Indian knowledge system products and services. So all of these together need to be done, and that is exactly what will take us there.
Namaskaram, sir. Being a computer science engineer by profession and by passion, what I'd like to ask you is, how can the computer science industry approach via Indian knowledge systems? Is there any framework for that, or?
Absolutely. I mean, I'm a computer science engineer myself, so I also work with AI and also with all of this. One simple way today to do that bridge quickly is around the NLP and language technology, which is if you want to look at how do I build technology systems, AI systems, data systems for the IKS market, right? So for example, our Ramkrishna ji is here, and he runs efforts to bring the tourism sector and the tourism industry to the genuine tourist places of Bharat, right? But how do you enable customer discovery, right? If you go to Amazon, they have entire teams that work on customer discovery. And for customer discovery, you need data, right? But where is the data about Indian knowledge systems and heritage? It doesn't exist. So that can be a starting point for computer science engineers, etc. There are a lot of such efforts happening. You can either be part of one of those efforts, you can do efforts on your own, but first you'll have to study what the space and the topography of space looks like. Right, that's one thing. And if you are more of the kind who is interested in fundamental Indian knowledge systems, then you will start looking at maybe things like computational Sanskrit, etc. If you have an understanding of Vyakaranam, etc., there is a lot of parallels between compilers and Vyakaranam. There's a lot of parallels between natural language processing and say Nyaya Shastram or Vyakarana Shastram. All of these are being explored as we speak. These can be areas in which you can easily get in, but there are 100 other areas. Sky is the limit if you have the right imagination, access, understanding.
Jai Shri Ram, sir. लव कुमार सिंह, सेंट्रल यूनिवर्सिटी ऑफ गुजरात. सर, जैसे कि हम जानते हैं कि बहुत सारे जो हमारे एंशियंट लिटरेचर हैं वो विदेशी आक्रांताओं द्वारा या तो नष्ट कर दिए गए या फिर समय के साथ हमने उसे खो दिया. और प्रेजेंट सिनारियो में या तो हम साइंटिफिक वैलिडेशंस पे रिलाई करते हैं या उसकी क्रेडिबिलिटी को टेस्ट करते हैं. तो मेरा सवाल ये है कि कैसे उसको हम प्रेजेंट मॉडर्न एजुकेशन सिस्टम में इंक्लूड कर सकते हैं, और वे फॉरवर्ड क्या है, उसको हम आने वाले टाइम पे कैसे प्रिजर्व करके उसको प्रोपोगेट कर सकते हैं.
So, ये जो पिछले 10 मिनट में जो बात की है वही विषय था वहाँ पे. And the short answer to that question broadly is you will have to understand the essence of the Bharatiya traditions. You will also have to understand the current knowledge system and then be able to do it. That work is being done by a lot of very good professionals and bureaucrats right up there. I think one of the best things that a lot of us can do is, for example, the Ministry of Education is likely to come up with systems where you can do studies across domains. For example, be able to learn both compilers, natural language processing, and Vyakaranam, Vyakaranam and Paniniya Shiksha. Similarly, there are programs where you will be able to learn and understand the essence of Yoga Shastra, the Yoga Sutra, along with understanding physiology, anatomy, and biomedical science. So a variety of these kind of programs are coming up. That can be one small way for us all to ease into this. After that, we will have to exactly find things based on what our interest, हमारी अभिरुचि कहाँ पे है, हमारी क्षमता कहाँ है, और हम किस क्षेत्र में हमारा योगदान हो सकता है, इसके लिए थोड़ा देखना पड़ेगा. इसके लिए जनरल आंसर्स नहीं है, पर्टिकुलर आंसर्स डिपेंडिंग ऑन केस टू केस बेसिस देखना पड़ेगा.